So I was spiraling the other day. Nothing new, lying in bed with my phone in my face and felt like everything was too much. And out of nowhere, I remembered this story and it made sense in a way it hadn't before. Welcome to the first episode of Small Talk with Infinity. This podcast is for anyone trying to figure out their life and not totally lose it in the process. The irony is that I hate small talk, so let's just get deep. If you're having your third existential crisis this week, hi, you're not alone. I'm your host, Pragya. I'm 26, kind of trying, kind of tired. I'd say I'm mildly chaotic, but mostly just to figure out what the heck I'm doing with my life. These days, I've stopped trying to figure it out, and I'll just look up. Like, hey universe, can I get a hint? A breadcrumb maybe some kind of cosmic Google Doc? I've always been into spirituality, but I'm really trying to kick it up a notch because if I've been through enough therapy to quote the worksheets, it's probably time I actually do the work, right? So these days I've been reading the Gita, that's the Bhagavad Gita, because life, right? So my dad's been trying to get me to read it for years, but I don't know. I was never really just interested. And so this is a little surprising, even to me. And honestly, though, I'm so glad because I have found the cosmic Google Doc in the Bhagavad Gita. So I wanted to create a space where ancient wisdom meets modern soul searching. And so in this series, I want to take the Gita chapter by chapter. Each week, we'll dive into timeless stories that are all deeply human. So if you're looking for a sign, this is it. Take 20 minutes for yourself. Grab a drink or some food. Take a walk, lay down, zone out, whatever. Let's get into it. So in today's episode, we meet a warrior, Arjun, who literally drops his weapon in the middle of the biggest battle of his life and goes, why am I even doing this? This is the story of a guy on a battlefield. He's having the biggest what is my life moment ever. And God actually shows up to talk him through it. And me personally, I ask that question twice, at least twice a week. So let's talk about it. About courage, dharma, cosmic drama, and what this old story. Yeah, it's 7,500 years old, by the way. So let's talk about what the story has to say about all of our quarter-life crises. So, all right, before we get into the first chapter, we need to talk about the backstory of the war. Let me kind of set up the scene. So picture this, a dusty little battlefield called Kurukshetra, and it's somewhere near modern-day Delhi. It's actually pretty big. I don't know why I said little. Anyways, mind you, this is 7,500 years ago. So no Google Maps, no Uber chariots, just lots of beef between family that turns into one of the bloodiest wars ever recorded. Okay, so the story is of the Mahabharata, which I'm going to call MBT because I'm lazy. So MBT is basically the OG family drama, and it ends up in war. Like if you've seen Succession, but with swords, moral dilemmas, and absolutely zero therapy. You've got two branches of the same royal family, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. The Kauravas' main leader is Duryodhan, and he's our main villain. Imagine like a petty, insecure dude with major eldest son syndrome. And the Pandavas' leader is Yudhishthir, and he's got 4 younger brothers, and the 5 of them are basically the golden retrievers of righteousness. They're trying to do the right thing, and they care. I mean, they're not perfect, but they're trying. And the Kauravas and Pandavas, they're all cousins. So their dads were brothers. Brother 1, the Dhrashtra, was blind, and he was Duryodhan's dad. And brother 2, Pandu, was said to be very noble, but apparently he was cursed with an early retirement from king duties, which, if you're curious, let me tell you. So our guy Pandu, he's an amazing archer. He goes into the forest to hunt these deers and shoots these 2 deer that are making love. But then he hears a human crying and he's like, what the heck? So he goes over and realizes that the deer are actually human. It's this rishi named Kendama who's taken the form of a deer. And so Kendama cursed Pandu because he didn't let him finish his lovemaking. Not much else to say. I got this from the internet. But okay, we digress. Back to the 2 brothers. Guess who got the throne? It was the blind brother's son, Duryodhan. And let me tell you, this man made scarcity mindset his whole personality. So 2 things kicked off the war. The first thing was that Duryodhan was a jealous mother. He couldn't handle how everyone, like legit everyone, loved the Pandavas. Because Arjun was hot, Bhim was a beast during battles and whatnot, and even the 2 younger ones had main character energy. And he hated it. So he pulled the ultimate snake move, which back then was scamming them out of their kingdom, basically coercing and straight up lying to them. And the second thing was, and this is the deeper tea, To be honest, it seemed like Duryodhana didn't really believe in morality. Like the concept of divine order or sacred responsibility, he literally saw the world as his personal playground. No rules, no higher purpose, no karmic accountability. Basically just power trips. And even so, the Pandavas were trying to rule with integrity, dharma, and service to the people. Basically how you would expect your king to be. They believed leadership came with responsibility, not just reward. So yeah, on one side you have divine purpose, and on the other, generational entitlement and weaponized daddy issues. It's kind of obvious this wasn't just about land. It was about worldviews, about what kind of society wins. Will it be one rooted in ego or one rooted in service? So here's where things get super wild, especially if you question the idea of God. But that's how the Gita was born, so believe what you will. But basically, in the middle of this royal family global war situation, guess who shows up? God. No big deal, super casual, but to me, this is one of the coolest things about Indian philosophy, and honestly one of my favorite plot twists of all time. It's this idea that when things get really messy down here on Earth, God or the divine, or whatever you want to call them, doesn't just chill in the clouds eating like garlic naan and butter paneer. Nope. They show up, literally, in human form. And the Sanskrit word for this divine voluntary drop-in is avatar, which essentially means the supreme being takes on a human disguise and enters the world like, okay, everyone, calm down. Let me fix this. So, as you can imagine, that's exactly what's said to have happened during the MBT. The Gita says that the source of all existence, and no pressure, showed up on Earth as a guy named Krishna. And not some like distant god figure with thunderbolts and weapons and such. Krishna was actually born into the same royal family, and he was both Arjun and Duryodhana's cousin. Imagine your therapist is also your cousin and also God. That's like better than winning the lottery, in my opinion. Anyways, fast forward to the war prep. At this point, the Pandavas have just come back from 13 years in exile. Remember, they were sent away. And they've tried everything to avoid war. Diplomacy, negotiations, long, awkward family dinners, probably group chats at this point, but Duryodhana, still not having it. So Arjun's like, let me go plead one last time. Spoiler, doesn't work. Duryodhana basically laughs in his face, so then Krishna, I call him divine CEO of cosmic fairness, he steps in and offers them both a final choice. Krishna goes, here's the deal, I'm not fighting, but you can either have me unarmed on your side, or you can have my entire army. And surprise, surprise, Duryodhana, being the material boy he is, immediately grabs the army. And Arjun chooses Krishna. No weapons, just vibes. And that brings us to the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Because at this point, two massive armies are lined up. You've got drums beating, probably those conch shells are blowing, and in my head, the sky's all cloudy and dramatic. And right before the chaos begins, Arjun basically crashes out. He breaks down because he's looking at his uncles, his teachers, his cousins, all these people he grew up with. And they're standing on the other side, and he just can't. So he puts down his bow. Yeah, they had bows and arrows back then. So he puts down his bow. His heart is probably racing, and he's teary-eyed. And he says, Krishna, I don't want to do this. And guess what Krishna does? Well, what he doesn't do is roll his eyes or say, man up. He gives Arjun, and the rest of us, to be honest, one of the most powerful spiritual pep talks ever recorded. That's the Bhagavad Gita, literally the Song of God, about how the divine wasn't just next to Arjun, but actually within him. I could cry. But I won't. Okay, now y'all know the backstory and we've set the scene. So here's why I feel the Bhagavad Gita is more than just ancient scripture. Like, there's a lot of parallelisms to modern day life. Like, for example, we all have baggage. Whether it's your neighbor who has family drama, or your friend who's having relationship issues, or maybe even your colleague who's having money problems. This is the part where all your emotional baggage gets unpacked, sorted by color, and spiritually steamed. Not joking. Like, this isn't just Krishna giving Arjun a TED talk on ethics. So yeah, on the surface, he's saying get up and fight, but if you zoom out, it's so much bigger. Krishna's basically standing on business. Justin Bieber reference. He's showing face in our messy human world to remind us that, hey, you're not just this body, or this gross situation, or this overwhelming Monday afternoon. You are an immortal being. You come from light. You're just here for a little while, like a soul backpacking through Earth school. I'm so dead. I love it. Another interesting way to think about it is like cosmic Wi-Fi, because it sounds like Krishna's always present, always guiding, supposedly the source of all those little nudges that your gut gives you when something's off. He really seems like the OG, nature is sacred, guys, basically preaching sustainability 7,500 years before climate change became a thing. I remember Duryodhan, the worst. That's the guy who basically saw the world as a vending machine for his ego. It was all about control and domination. So yeah, he's probably the spiritual ancestor of every tyrant, toxic boss, or billionaire with a private island and a god complex. Not gonna name drop. But the funny thing is, you can zoom in and it all still makes sense. Like, think about your immune system. It's fighting off literal invaders all day, every day. That's your body's Kurukshetra. And in that version, Duryodhan is a cancer cell, breaking the rules, spreading darkness. And Arjun is your immune system, just trying to restore balance or whatnot, even if it hurts. And like, zoom in again into your mind. Those negative thoughts, you're not enough. Or what's the point? Yeah, those are the modern day Duryodhans. That's the inner chaos trying to run over your sense of self. In Krishna, he's that quiet inner feeling that says, breathe, keep going. This isn't who you really are. So guys, when you read the Gita, you're not just reading about a war. You're reading about you. Every time you're stuck between doing what's easy and doing what's right. Every time you feel like giving up, but something deeper says, you can't. That's Arjun's moment. That's Krishna whispering through the noise. And apart from the fact that it's truly wild that God shows up as Arjun's chariot driver, what's even more endearing is that he talks to Arjun like a best friend with patience and love. So much love. He even ends the whole thing with, you're free to do what you feel is right. No guilt trip. No ultimatums or curses, just love and free will. That's so soft and powerful. Because here's the truth, Arjun didn't want to fight. He was kind, thoughtful, deeply sensitive. He didn't want to hurt anyone, even if they were in the wrong. And I know I've been there. You've probably also thought at some point, I don't know if I can do this. But even in Arjun's breakdown, destiny chose him. And destiny chooses us all. So yeah, the Gita really is a love story between the soul and the divine. A story of how love chooses to show up, even in chaos. And a reminder that the light in us is so incredibly real and strong and eternal, no matter how loud the darkness gets. So let's end this episode right before the first chapter starts. At this point, Dhritarashtra, the blind king, he's sitting in his home watching the battle, but obviously he can't see, so he asks his advisor, basically his right-hand guy, Sanjay, to tell him what's going on between his sons and the Pandavas on the battlefield. We'll dive into chapter 1 of the Gita next time, because yeah, Arjun's spiritual crisis has layers and Krishna's just getting started with the life advice. If your soul feels kind of seen, maybe called out, or even soothed, same. Arjun had Krishna, we have each other, lo-fi playlists, and maybe this podcast. So if you liked this episode, send it to someone who's mid-spiral or is spiritually curious, or maybe both. Follow me on Instagram, send me a voice note, a question, or your favorite spiritual meme. And if this episode gave your soul a hug, first of all, aw, but seriously, leave a review. It helps more wandering weirdos find their way here. Until next time, may your chai be strong, your karma be soft, and your thoughts just a little less loud.